If you clicked on this video, you are probably either extremely against the idea of Elden Ring having an easy mode or are all for it. Both sides have arguments that they believe is valid, and I'm not here to argue for one side of the other, only to present facts in a way which people may not have considered before or present them in a different light. The first thing we need to get over is the idea that From Software games don't have easy modes built right into them, you just need to work for it. In fact, I'd argue that by design the game is set to hard mode from the beginning, but everything you do slowly lowers the difficulty of the game. Eventually, if you take the four things I am going to speak about to their logical extreme, you have essentially achieved easy mode. The only reason people don't consider it such, is because most people don't take it to this extreme level, but it is entirely possible if one is to put in the time and effort. Now I know what some people, on the side of easy modes is going to say, that an easy mode should remove the time and effort needed to be put into a game, but if it isn't a sense of satisfaction you're after, why not just read a book or watch a film for entertainment? If you don't want to spend time playing a game, why buy it? If your only interest is watching the story unveil itself to you, why not watch someone else play it? Because in the end, we play games for the fun of it and the satisfaction we can get from the result. If you want to remove challenge from a game, it becomes nothing but endless clicking of one button. Now before we get into the 4 tiers of difficulty adjustment, we have in almost every From Software game since Demon's Souls, I'd like to ask you to like the video and subscribe. I am attempting to reach 500 subscribers before the end of the year, and if we could do that together then that would be awesome. But enough of my self-promoting, let's get on with the video, starting off with the first tier of adjustment. Leveling is one thing which is consistent through all of these games, and in each one they make the game significantly easier, to the point not leveling in of itself is considered a hard mode or challenge run by the community. By increasing your health, you can take more hits in the Soulsborne series. In Sekiro you can unlock skills which make the game much easier, from hiding yourself better, to doing more damage after you succeed at a deflect. This is a system which is available to all players as it is a key part of the games, and it is one which most any player can make sense of, at least the very basics, and if they are struggling, the games do in fact provide aid within the level up menu of the Soulsborne series to help keep you informed of what your levels up do, and within Sekiro, you get full-on pop-ups explaining to you how the level up system works. If one wanted to, they could level up right up to the max on the very first enemy they encounter. Outside of the tutorial of each of their respective games, it might take time and it might be boring, but that is the price you pay for unlocking an easy mode, which the game creators are actively seeking to turn you away from. Within the Soulsborne series, when your stats reach a certain point, you start to get diminishing returns. This is the subtle way for From Software that going any further and you'll hit the easy mode. In the community these are referred to soft and hard caps when scaling just sort of dwindles down to the nothing, but to one who is absolutely determined to have the easiest experience possible, they can punch these conventions square in the face and move onwards, continuing to break past these hard caps just to gain a few extra points. If you reach the maximum health possible, you'll never have to worry about getting one hit, you'll never have to worry about a single mistake costing you everything, and that in of itself is a great boon when you play one of these games, be it for the first time or your 100th time. A single misclick on hard mode, as I'll call the standard way of playing the game, can cost you. If you level up your stamina to the max, you can attack and attack and attack, roll and roll and roll, block and block and block all you want, because having maximum stamina means you're no longer restrained nearly as much as you were before. There are still limits, but they barely affect you at that point, and if you really wanted to, you can sprint through everything and get to the boss. Most enemies in the game are inherently slower than you are, so outrunning them is entirely possible with a maxed out stamina bar. Within Sekiro, leveling up is arguable, unlocking an even greater easy mode than it is in any of the Soulsborne series, as while leveling up in Sekiro doesn't increase your health, it is directly tied into unlocking features of the game, which each one makes the game easier in its own unique way. From the Mikiri counter, allowing for an easier time dealing with thrust-type attacks which previously were far more punishing, to the suppression of sound and presence, which makes stealth so much easier, allowing for the either quick kill of most enemies or the complete avoidance of them entirely. For as much as people complain about Sekiro difficulty, 90% of all battle encounters can be avoided, or circumvented using stealth, which leveling up is the key to. In Elden Ring, we don't know exactly what leveling up systems will be just yet, but we can be pretty certain that the standards like health, stamina, strength, and dexterity are returning to us in some fashion, so if you want to achieve easy mode in Elden Ring, just level up until you can just about smite any regular enemy who dares get in your way. Moving on to the next tier of easy mode. Within the Soulsborne series, there is a part of the game, which is coined by Solaire of Astoria as Jolly Cooperation. The ability to summon either other players, or NPCs to aid you in battle against the game itself. The online community for the Soulsborne community is booming, even within the older games. Provided that you have a stable internet connection, you can usually find one or two random summon signs around the place, as strangers offer up their aid for struggling players. And while summoning is linked to a consumable, these are usually readily available, with them being farmable off enemies, with Bloodborne being the lone exception to this rule. However, that game does in fact provide you with ample amounts of its required currency to attempt summoning at least 3 times on the first boss alone. However, the level of efficiency with which these summons work, is entirely dependent on several factors which cannot be accounted for by the game itself, namely a player's own skill at the game or the NPC getting killed by an enemy that the player failed to notice and take care of on their way to the boss. It should also be noted that not every boss has an NPC summon for it, and random summoning signs are level dependent. If you level up outside of the standard norm as pointed out in the last point, you'll see less and less summoning signs from random players. However, playing with a password allows for 2 players to connect to one another more easily, regardless of level. The issue is that you might not have friends who also have the game or who don't have the time to play through the game with you. But that isn't as much of a restriction in this age of the internet, where you can go on to almost any Dark Souls community site and look for people who are willing to help you play through the game. Hell, I know for a fact that you can meet people cooping through Dark Souls and end up becoming good online friends, so really the only thing stopping you from getting help is yourself, provided you have once again, a stable internet connection. Summons can do all sorts of things, from being a means of distributing a particularly dangerous boss's attention between you and another party, a reliable source of damage without having to put you into a dangerous situation, a guide through an unknown area of the game where you risk falling prey to any traps of ambushes that have been set up in wait for you. At their most basic level, they can act as a meat shield, taking a blow for you while you run away, giving up their own lives for your benefit. Considering that this feature literally gives you 2 times the potential, at minimum, with different games allowing for different numbers of friendly phantoms to be summoned at any one time to help you out, this is certainly decreasing the difficulty of the game considerable, to the point if your summon is good enough or you have enough of them or you're patient enough, you can make it through the game without ever having to hit anything, dodge anything or do anything but follow behind them and watch as they bring down every foe you need face. We already know that summoning of players and NPC is going to be a thing in Elden Ring. However, this idea of summoning has been vastly expanded to the point that you can carry particular NPC summons around with you, before you have been at the mercy of from to decide what NPC you get for a boss fight or if you get one at all, but now you command which one you take forwards, which one complements your fighting style. But in typical From Software style, you won't get them easily, or without effort. You'll have to explore the world, face challenges and deal with problems in creative ways with what you already have. Moving on, we have the next tier of difficulty adjustment. Experience. It's the hardest easy mode to achieve, because it actually involves you trying and failing over and over and over and over and over again, like you're playing an instrument or learning to ride a bike. It is commonly held belief that your first Soulsborne experience is the most difficult because you gain hard-earned transferable skills between games which make the next game easier, which in a way means you start each of the following games on easy mode just because you already know everything you need to know, with few exceptions, in order to beat it. By experiencing the game, you gain knowledge, which, believe it or not, is more important than twitchy trigger reactions, something which doesn't seem to be understood by a lot of people crying out for an easily implemented easy mode under the assumption it would allow more people to play the game, including those who are in some way disadvantaged, physically or mentally, because honestly there isn't anything in the game which can't be overcome with experience, and if it requires some sort of adjustment to the controller so that they can play it, that isn't on the game to provide, but the developers of the consoles to create them so that the developers of games can accommodate for them. Experience allows you to predict an attack, counter, dodge or take advantage of it in some other way. With enough experience every boss can become a cakewalk because you know every attack animation startup so you can pre-dodge, you know when it's safe to heal, you know what they are weak to, and that's just to do with the enemies themselves, not accounting for knowledge of overpowered weapons, spells and other items which make your journey easier. For instance, in Dark Souls, with experience you know you can head down to the catacombs at the beginning of the game, get the Rite of Kindling and have 20 Estus for the rest of the game no matter what bonfire you rest at. Experience is the ultimate easy mode, for people who want to actually play the game without getting into spoilers of what they are up against. With how Elden Ring is an open-world game, which encourages you to explore the world at your own discretion, with experience you'll be able to figure out the best spots to farm items, to face easier enemies, to buff yourself up for the challenges down the road, to gain gear and weapons which will make bosses even more of a pushover than they otherwise would be, a serious issue for you, depending on your ability to adapt on the fly. Elden Ring, in terms of experience, might be the easiest Soulsborne-style game made by From Software because you can gain experience against enemies in the game, which will teach you mechanics for fighting other enemies in completely different areas of the game. Moving on to the final tier of adjustment. Up until now everything has been an easy mode that can be accessed in-game. Now I'll talk about the ultimate easy mode, which can only be accessed to those who don't mind spoilers and are willing to wait for others to play the game. That is, to use a guide, to have someone else map out the game for you and to allow them to walk you through the entire experience, warning you of every trap and ambush, tell you how to take down every boss and how to tackle every area. This is the easiest, easy mode that can ever be given to someone in any game, and it's one which is freely available for every single From Software game released since Demon's Souls. The community is massive and ever-growing. If you don't know something about one of the games and you want to, chances are someone somewhere in the community will know the answer. What I'm trying to get to with all of this talk, is that Souls games have always had variable difficulty. You just need to work at it to reach the easiest of the easy modes. Because at its core, playing a Souls game, getting good at a Souls-style game, is similar to that of getting good at an instrument. Not everyone has a natural talent, not everyone has the ability to pick it up quickly, but anyone can learn to play the chords with enough determination. But this is the end of the video. Sorry it took so long since I had to erase a lot of opinionated parts of the script. If you have your own thoughts, I'd love to hear them in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and maybe subscribe. But with that all said and done, have a good day or night wherever you are.